You are infinitely loved by an infinite God. Everyone you love is infinitely loved by an infinite God, way more than you could ever love them. Everyone you hate is infinitely loved by an infinite God, way more powerfully than you could ever hate them. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Love Your Unlovable podcast. I'm your host, the wildly unlovable, yet infinitely loved Eileen Chevalier.
Eileen, prettiest girl you ever seen. Eileen, alright. Eileen, prettiest girl you ever seen. Eileen, alright. She was born a scrapper, looking mighty dapper back in 77. Makes you kinda wonder what kind of thunder went messing up in heaven. Eileen, prettiest girl I ever seen. Eileen, alright. She could rob the boys, the playground joys they so dearly sought. And they'd forever miss her when they try to kiss her, 'cause she won't be caught. Eileen, the fastest girl in the entire world. Eileen, alright. Eileen, it's hard for an angel without her wings. Eileen, alright. Now when you and me crossed paths by the railroad tracks, you had me on heels. As the moon rolled by, I had a hard time trying to believe you were real. Eileen, the ghost of some long fallen queen. Eileen, alright. Eileen, to hold your hand made me understand what it means to be alright. We could have thrown in the towel 10 rounds ago, we're still here swinging. And our song could have ended so long ago, but we just keep on singing. I wanna grow old with you till my bones are glued and my hair is gone, until our baby's kids all about you, sing them this song. Eileen, the prettiest girl I ever seen. Eileen, alright. Eileen, prettiest girl I can't believe I get you all to me, alright.
I'm really happy with how that one turned out.
Yeah.
So that song is definitely a time jump. I wrote that in 2010.
The day before my birthday.
Yeah.
So best birthday present ever.
Eileen was turning 33, and we had never had much money, and we had progressed to getting where my salary was such that we could buy a house instead of live on your parents' property, and that was amazing. But that just like as soon as we had more money, we had much bigger expenses, kind of thing. So it always just felt really tight.
Yeah.
So anyway, I never really felt like I had the option of spending money on a fancy present for you, because it would be detrimental to our our finances, etc. So anyway, we were always being careful. But it was like the day before your 33rd birthday, and I was like, man, 33 is a really cool number, and I just felt horrible that I didn't have anything for you. And I was just like, I actually had written just the Eileen, prettiest girl you ever seen, Eileen, oh my, or all right, or whatever. That I had for years.
Really?
Yeah, for years. But I was like, I think what I did was I slowed it way down. I think it was more of a kind of like a country song.
Mm-hmm.
And then I slowed it way down and made it more, I don't know. And then the rest of it, I knew you a whole lot better now.
Yeah.
I knew you a lot better from 2004, almost 6 years of knowing you. Interestingly enough, the record, the idea of making a record out of this batch of songs was already underway. I think I started that in 2009.
Oh, really?
Maybe it was 10. But anyway, this song kind of came along at the time, and I was like, oh, that absolutely has to go on the record, obviously. But yeah, so this journey, if you've been on with us, is just sort of looking at our tumultuous marriage through the lens of this album, which is a weird way to structure it, but it's a thing that exists, and
well, it's
cool.
It's the story in song form,
right? And so it's kind of like,
and it's our story in conversation form.
Exactly. And you're working on the memoir version that will come out someday, hopefully. Yeah. So
maybe our 33, great number.
Oh, well, we just celebrated 20.
Yep, so that gives me a good amount of time.
13 years to finish up the book.
Who knows what we'll know by then?
No, but I mean, thanks for going on this journey with us. We're going to kind of do a whole separate series on more topical marriage stuff, but this is the last one of the story of as it relates to the album. And
yeah, and stories are important. I mean, I think it's really helpful to hear stories of it being terrible and it turning out amazing.
Yeah.
And
it took some time.
Yeah, because I just think unless you can see oh, that's possible, then it can be really hopeless. So hopefully we provided that example of
maybe we entertained
persevering.
Maybe you were like, wow, we're not that bad. You can turn to your spouse and be like, geez Louise, they were a mess.
Yeah. Could be worse.
Yeah. Could always be worse. And we're super thankful it wasn't worse than what it was.
So 2010, February. So Ella was born
in July of 2009.
So probably wasn't, I don't know. I guess at some point during that time, we got married. I got pregnant 2 months later. Mm-hmm. So 5 months into knowing each other, I got pregnant. I proceeded, I had 2 miscarriages. So
you were either pregnant or nursing.
There were very, very few months. None between nursing up and getting pregnant with Hank. None between nursing Hank and getting pregnant and having a miscarriage. And then basically getting pregnant right again, having another miscarriage. Mm-hmm. And then I guess when we moved, there was a few months between, because I was like, nope. Not having another kid because I can't handle another miscarriage.
Yeah, the 2 miscarriages were really tough.
So hard.
Yeah. And I didn't want to put you through that again.
Oh my gosh.
And we had 2 amazing kids and we were just like, we're good.
I just didn't think I could handle the pain of
a third
loss again.
Yeah.
It was so horrible.
Yeah.
And So we were trying to not get pregnant. We're clearly terrible at that. Because that was like our third time of getting pregnant when we were
Trying not to.
Yeah.
Well, what does that mean? I mean,
the first miscarriage, like I didn't even know I could get pregnant because it was like right after.
yeah.
I mean, Hank was so young still, but I've been, really hormonal. Had a lot of stuff going on. My body was never my own. It kind of felt like, and then I finally felt like normal.
Was it in 2010? You think you came downstairs?
Probably when I was like, "Hey."
Yeah, you came down.
Hi.
It was like one weekend afternoon. I was watching probably football or something, and you were just like, "Hey." I was like, "Hey." What?
But it was like the
first
time.
You were like, I'm me. And I was like, "What?" And you were like,
"Yes.
"I'm me." Like I
feel like
me
myself
again. Like just my regular self, like not producing a child, not nursing a child.
Yeah.
It's been a few years, so I just kind of wanted to reintroduce
like our
myself.
entire marriage.
Just kind of wanted to say hi, and it was great. I mean, we'll get into a whole nother podcast about sex in marriage and how that weaves in and through birth, and how it's all connected to communication and everything. But like, we've been through so much more than what we're explaining in this story. This is just kind of us unpacking the stories relevant to the songs.
Yeah.
But like. I think, I saw this great reel on Instagram, and I think about it a lot. And it's a person, I can't remember if it's two different people or if it's one person playing two different people, but basically it's like, so let's say you're just an eternal spirit up there with God hanging out, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to go down to earth for like an infinitesimally small amount of time and experience pain and suffering and love and heartbreak and joy and, just the full gamut of emotions and then come back to eternity?" And they're like, "Yeah, let's do it. Like, why not?" But I think that when we're in those seasons of pain or whatever, they both feel like eternally long. And also they just feel like,
why would I ever sign up for this?
Yeah, like it's never going to be anything other than this. I think that that's a really easy thing to get into. It's just like, and I know I battled feeling that in the early days of our marriage. I was like, "Oh, this is what it is, and it's going to be like this forever."
But it's always changing.
Oh yeah, we've had so many different seasons of our marriage at this point. I think you start to just trust the seasons too. You're just like, "Oh, this is an interesting phase." Like.
Yeah, I remember I babysat for this family, and the mom was just amazing. I love her. And she was a nurse, so she would work like an overnight shift. And so her husband would pick me up, drop me off at their house, and then go to work. And then I'd take care of the kids, and then she would arrive home, but immediately go to sleep. Mm-hmm. So I took care of them while she was sleeping, and then he would come home and I guess drive me back home. This was before I could drive. Mm-hmm. But one day, I guess, she wasn't super exhausted, and every now and then she'd come in and we just chat. But she was actually on call, so she had to stay awake.
Okay.
And the kids were taking a nap. And we were sitting in the living room and just talking. It was so fantastic. And her husband got home and he was like, what's this? I think because we were both just like chatting. He's like, "Why am I paying you to chat?" I was getting $3 an hour, so they weren't paying me a lot.
Much. Easy, buddy.
But she was amazing. She was like, "Oh, we're both on call." Because she was on call, so she could have to leave at any moment.
Oh, right. And she could rest knowing that if the kid woke up and started crying, you were going to go deal with it.
Absolutely.
She didn't have to deal with it.
Yeah. So anyway, so we're both on call and we were chatting. But one thing that she said, two things that she said that I really loved. I remember her kid was crying one time. She was like, "Oh, tell me your story." And that, like, oh, you're upset about something, like, tell me your story. Like, I loved that phrase. And the other thing she would always say was, this too shall pass. And no matter how good it is,
The mantra of the nurse.
or no matter how bad it is, like, whatever you're in, that season's gonna pass.
Yeah.
And I think it makes you really appreciate the beautiful, wonderful moments, and it makes you know that you can get through the really terrible ones, because it's gonna pass. Like, whatever it is, it's not gonna be for long. But I'm glad I get this, like, little tiny sliver of time with you, babe.
I know.
I love it.
I think the reason I keep thinking about that reel, though, is it's like, well, first of all, I love the idea of it being a choice. And that's consistent.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's nothing in the scriptures that says that you're a pre-existing soul and you get to choose to come to earth. But it could be. It also doesn't say that that's the case.
Yeah. Oh, maybe the fruit is the earth.
What do you mean?
know, like, we get sent here. We choose to rebel. And then we're like, wait, that was a bad idea. Or not.
Well, you mean it's a punishment to come to earth?
No.
Oh. I'm confused about what you're saying.
Because we choose to not live in his beauty and abundance, his, like, beautiful garden. We're like, I think I could probably do a better job.
Yeah. I got a lot of questions for God, but I definitely love the idea of it being a choice. Like, hey, do you want to go down to earth?
Yeah.
It's going to be everything. It's going to be all the things.
Yeah.
And it's going to be totally different. It's going to be totally unique.
Well, and you get to choose all these things within that.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to just, every day, you have 1,000 choices you can make.
Yeah. What do you want to do? You know, do you want to do it or not? And, like, anyway, time is weird and eternity is a weird concept, but it's interesting to think about, like,
I wonder if I chose you before. Okay, so I had this weird moment.
uh-huh.
I was dating this other redhead.
Ugh. Imposter.
He was great.
No, he wasn't. Clearly not. Clearly not that
He
great.
wasn't you.
No.
And God made it really clear to me the night that I, like, it became a thing. He was like, or no, it was later. Like, we'd already kind of, I knew that I was being selfish. And, but then one night we were hanging out and God was like, no, you need to leave.
Get up and
right
leave.
now.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the guy. Like, audibly, I heard him. And I was like, okay. You just, like, spoke out loud to me. And so I was like, I gotta go. See you later. So I go to my car. It's cold. And I sat in my car. I probably turned it on. And I was like, I'm so lonely. And God probably doesn't know what's best for me. I mean, like, how often are we like, yeah, you told me this thing, but it's just too hard to actually do.
Mm-hmm. And
I went back in.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I knew that, and we were dated him for 5 years. It was an extended rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
But we went to the lake this one night, and I was like, yes. I was like, see, this is it. It's like this scenario, and I was like, this was the thing. Like, this is, and it was so weird because I always had this thought that, like, we would get in, like, something that, like, wouldn't really be working it out, and I would always just think, like, don't you know who I am? Don't you know me? Like, what's going on? But I think it was just you. And he didn't know me because it wasn't you. Mm. And that night, like, I don't remember when we went to the lake, but I think it was September. Mm. And we got married in September, and, like, we were right near the lake when we started living together. And anyway, just later I was like, oh, maybe I was just confused about the guy.
Yeah.
Because he was also a musician.
5 years.
Wow.
Even though God told you. No, this is it's a great story. Obviously, I've known it for a long time, but, like, it's an incredible story. And it speaks again to the fact that God is there and trying to lead everybody and trying to do his thing. But we have authority to make decisions. And those decisions have real consequences, regardless of, God is always working to steer things in a productive and constructive way, but you're making destructive choices.
And he's seeing, I mean, not that it was like super destructive, but like he sees the long range potential, right? So I think, I mean, he was a great guy. His in-laws, I mean, his parents, they were amazing. They loved me. I loved them. But where I am with you, I never would have gotten to this place with him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was interested in like mythology, but not God in the same way, And I think I wanted to have a relationship with God.
You had a relationship with God,
and that's just like the most important thing to me. And so I feel like I ultimately couldn't give that up for him.
Right.
Even though he was great. I mean, I couldn't think of anything that was like, this is what's wrong with you. Like there wasn't anything that was wrong with him other than just he didn't want, a threesome with God.
He didn't have a personal.
He didn't want us to.
He didn't have a personal dynamic relationship with God, and when you do, it's difficult to communicate to a person who doesn't a lot of things about your life because they do flow from conversations with God.
Yeah.
And if the other person doesn't
and your motivation
believe that's possible or just can't connect with it, it does limit the level of intimacy because
it limits the level of intimacy. Like
does.
That intimacy that I can have with you and talk to you about God and like, I mean, we've spent so many thousands of hours talking about God and like growing and sharing and encouraging each other. Like that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, you make choices and God's working. And anyway, if you take anything from this podcast, know that God can make beautiful things from seemingly unredeemable messes.
Well, we have said for a long time, we like to encourage each other with God can win with any hand.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
he's just that creative. Like,
yeah, he's infinitely creative.
Any hand you deal him, meaning like the shitty choices you make, the blatant like
all
disregard,
the mistakes you make.
He's infinitely creative. So
and he can redeem everything.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I like to talk about this. I know, hallelujah. I like to talk about an easy way to discern whether a feeling you're getting or a nudge you're getting is from God or from a destructive source, and it's exactly that. It's like you can't always tell because you can't see in the future, but a really good sort of test is like, is this coming from a creative or restorative place, or is this coming from a place of either confusion or fear or destruction,
or coping? Like, what do I need right now just to pacify me?
Yeah. And that's a bigger topic to get into as well. But like, it's a really, really important question for someone who maybe is new in their walk with God and in their relationship with God. So like, when am I hearing God and when am I hearing something else? Because, the demonic exist, and the demonic do like to whisper and nudge.
We have plenty of things we can tell ourselves.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And so like God,
and just impatience. I mean, I just didn't want to wait. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I think we lacked.
I was like, here's somebody that could love me right now. Mm-hmm. Why would I wait for who knows? I mean, it was a long time. Clearly, we dated for 5 years, and then it was like a couple more before
I came around.
Maybe only a year.
So it was the mid-90s.
Yeah, later.
Late 90s.
97, I think. But
anyway, the last song on the record, there's a lot more we could talk about. So we'll Eileen has really great vision for this podcast, and it doesn't always involve me, but I'm a big part of her life.
Yeah.
So we'll do some more together. But just to kind of wrap up the record, the last song on the record is called Chapter 2, and it really is about...
Well, the record itself is Mike and Eileen Chapter 1. So like all of this like tumultuous and then recovering. Mm-hmm. So then The last song's chapter 2.
The last song is
That's just like why it's chapter 2.
Yeah, it ends with the lyric, I'm busy working on chapter 2. I'll read the words because why not? So this was written in 2007.
Ah.
So the oldest written song on the album is Eileen in 2010.
You mean the newest? The youngest.
The
most recent.
Yes. Yeah. The song that was written last before the record was made by far was Eileen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just sort of a there's not a lot of deep,
yeah, it's your biography. Your autobiography.
It's sort of a biography of just as a songwriter. So it starts out with I cut my teeth in Baltimore, which I wasn't born in Baltimore, but my music career, my music endeavors started in Baltimore. Not really. They didn't, but they took it's just the first line I came up with. I was living in Baltimore for many years.
Well, cutting your teeth, you're not born when you're cutting your teeth.
Right. Great point.
That's
Great point.
when you're like
my music
getting into
career
the meat.
born,
You're like, I'm ready for more.
Aspirations were born much, much earlier than Baltimore. But I did cut my teeth as a performing artist there.
Yeah.
Maybe. I played a lot of shows in high school too. A different context. Fell out the womb and hit the floor. They spanked me and they heard me cry. I'm not staying around here no more. I mean, I don't really. This one doesn't hold up well to reading out loud. But basically.
Oh, I love it. It's great, babe.
All right. I'll get to the part about you then. I fell in deep with my old crew. Okay, this is me kind of going back to Maryland before I met Eileen. Had a drink. I had a few. I drank a lot at that time. Devil danced around my head saying we only do what we must do. That was definitely my primary thought process for justifying,
all kinds of things.
It was like, it's just we're all coping. We're all just getting by, whatever. So I headed back south with a backing band, a couple of bucks and a faulty plan. My star fell into my hand. I held on tight and became a man. That's the story of me meeting Eileen that night at the gallery. Was not expecting it. I had also been in a long-term relationship, not that long, but like
not 5 years.
I had been in like a 2-year, which was then followed by a gap, and then another one that was like a year and ish, and then that ended, and I was at the point where I had no confidence in the ability to pick out the person that I was supposed to marry. Like I had tried and just was failing miserably, and I was like, nah, I'm not gonna. And Eileen and I met when we both had kind of
given up,
gotten to the point of surrender. Which
that's when God's like, okay, now you're ready.
Should be a chapter in the surrender book. We hurried off into the pines where she became a friend of mine, where she became my blushing bride. Good God Almighty, she sure is fine. Still true. Had to learn to lay my life down, to plant a seed in the fertile ground. Now that's obviously children, but Eileen was a big gardener, and I did learn a lot about growing food. We always had a garden. First year we had a really big garden. Like
that was the second year.
Second year. Sure enough, as the day is long, things came popping up all around. Children, corn, okra, potatoes, tomatoes. Now I got to keep my babies fed. Got to go to work and make some bread so they can grow up strong. Got to hug them awake and love them to bed. I love bedtime with my kids.
Oh my gosh. I would stand outside the door and he would be in there because I would do the dishes. So like I was done.
You were done with the kids.
We would eat dinner. I'd be like, great, have a good time. I need to be alone for a minute.
In night clothes.
Yeah, so Mike would take care of like getting them ready for bed, and I would clean up the kitchen so that I had a minute. And then so often, you would make up these amazing stories, and I'd, like tiptoe down the hall and just stand outside because I didn't want to interrupt the story. But I wanted to hear, and it was so fun just to listen to you making up these stories, just, I guess, just on the spot. And the kids just loved them, and it was so fun. It was such a sweet time. Like, later we read together, but When they were really young, you would just make up stories.
I mean, we would read books too. You know, we'd gather around, read books, but then inevitably,
Oh, they
they'd be
wanted to
like,
hear
"Tell
a
me a
story.
story."
Oh, yeah.
I made the mistake of doing a really great job a few times, and then they were like, you know,
Dad, yeah.
the bar was high. Like several times, I actually came downstairs after they were asleep and tried to write it down. I was like, that was really good. Let me
Yeah.
turn that into some children's book, but it never worked. But you know, it's such a sweet time. Like I'm so thankful whenever I can remember to just be completely present, because like every moment is
Yeah.
precious, and when you really allow that to be your perspective, your life gets so good. It's so rich. Like even a hard time, even a misunderstanding is when you can just appreciate everything as having value, as being part of your journey, as being part of whatever it is that's making you in ways that you can't understand. That's definitely a part of surrender too. Like when you get to let go and just realize that there's a much smarter mind driving things, not driving things, but like working with you and for you, then you can kind of stop judging your day, stop judging, and stop living in the future with plans and everything. You can just be present. Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of different mystical faith traditions to talk about being present, but the present is the only place where you actually have agency. You don't have agency in the past or the future. Like, but it's just amazing when you begin to really trust the love of God, because you don't have to, you're not trying to earn anything. You're not trying to carve out your niche. Like you believe he's actually going to provide for you. You believe he actually already loves you, and you believe that he has great things for you. And so even when you hit things that are confusing or things that are painful or whatever, you can have a deep abiding sense of like, this is not wasted. This is productive. And like, and don't get me wrong, I still think we're designed to assess situations and make them as
Yeah.
good as possible, make them
Yeah.
better. But I think that once you have that perspective that nothing's wasted, like you're not wasting time that's painful, or time even when you've done something dumb and caused a difficult situation, that's not wasted either, because God's infinitely creative.
Well, and one more thing about bedtime. I think for me as a child, my favorite was just, my dad would come in and tell me stories. And I loved that. And so I think that time when you can just like, before you go to sleep, to get into that headspace of being loved and having some like nice like moment before you head off to dreamland, I think it's just so amazing. And I loved that. I mean, of course I would go in and kiss them goodnight afterwards, but yeah, it's always been really special. Like even now we like hang out before we go to bed.
Which is us going to bed, and the kids are not going to bed.
Yeah, I'm like falling asleep, so I kick them out.
But yeah, we do make it a point to get together and hang out, not just like get together to say a quick prayer and go to bed. Like we try to like just get together and really be together. Sometimes we're tired and whatever, but like in general, we prioritize that because
it's a connection
because
point.
we can have it, and it's
Yeah.
wonderful, and we as a family are super open and honest with each other, so there's a lot of trust there, and there's a lot of nourishment that comes from being around your people that you trust deeply. And our family of 5 is our little mastermind. It is our little like, we are we're a very trusting, creative entity. Like
Yeah.
we share our deepest fears, we share our hopes, we share our work in progress. And there's a lot, like, obviously all this grows and develops over time, but like it's a very nourishing thing when your family. When we were traveling around the country, I don't know if we touched on that at all, but like multiple times in different scenarios, the kids overheard another kid say, they actually love each other. Like they actually like each other. Like them being just surprised that our family,
Other siblings didn't have that
there
relationship.
wasn't, not that they never fight, but like there wasn't an underlying spirit of contention or animosity or competition.
Oh yeah, I mean
Like,
our kids always love spending time together.
I mean, they're kind of inseparable. Like, they've been in the same space as each other.
Well, and they've had so many
They
shared
homeschooled
like
together.
experiences. Like traveling together is a
Traveling
very
together.
big bonding experience.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
her.
it's very sweet. Like I would love to do a whole nother series with you about parenting in the new covenant, or how to love your unlovable children. Our children are really lovable. We can't really speak about that.
Yeah, we'll do the how to love your unlovable parent with them. Bring them on.
Yeah, it's a whole nother topic. But chapter 2, the song, really kind of... Ella wasn't even born yet. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
No, I wrote that song in 2007.
What month?
Uh,
After Hank was born?
Yeah, Hank was born.
Okay.
I wrote it in May of 2007.
That's like right after he was born.
Oh. He wasn't born. He was born the next day.
You wrote it the day before he was born?
Well, I wrote it on May 4th.
Oh,
so
wow.
he was born on the 6th.
2 days
So it's
later.
definitely like processing, the things are popping up all around. It was so just to kind of
Wow.
end that through line, like it was definitely me laying down my career aspirations as an artist, which was tough because I knew I was writing some of the best stuff I'd ever written. But it was like, this is more important. And that was a tough, I don't want to minimize it. It was a long, slow struggle for me to let that go and realize God had a better plan for me. And I'm really thankful that I didn't pursue it. I know I could have, and I would have really dragged you and the kids through a lot. It would have been really tough for me to try to be a recording artist and raise
you
young
can't
kids.
say.
No, but
We have no idea. But...
I feel confident it was not what I was supposed to do. And I'm saying I could
Yeah, I mean, you were pretty immature in a lot of ways.
Ugh.
So
we couldn't even,
I think
we
you
couldn't
might have
even
made some
unpack it.
real poor
I could have made some
decisions.
really bad decisions on top of
that
like
you would have regretted for a long time. And
the ego thing. It could have easily ruined our marriage, our relationship, for sure. But again, surrender. Maybe I've gotten more ideas in the last couple of minutes about surrender.
Yeah.
Surrendering your plan for your life for whatever God has for you is like the best advice I could give anyone, because he's the best and he knows you better than you know you, and he knows the world and he knows what's going on and he knows how you can fit into it. And I don't want to oversimplify it. There isn't one plan. God has many plans, and there's lots of things going on because everybody is an active agent and is making decisions that have real consequences.
He's creative and dynamic, and he's always looking for the best thing for you.
And it's always about being available, like for every moment. There's been some moments lately, and I don't want to sugarcoat our parenting situation. Ella, all of us have issues, but Ella's a particularly emotional child, and definitely has some tough.
Part of why she's like.
She's also incredibly creative artist, but so but there have been moments in recent months where it's like where Ella's having a tough time with whatever, and I just kind of have the maturity now to be quiet and ask God, how can I help the best? And sometimes it's to just give her space, and sometimes it's to go and just hold her and not say anything. And
you learned this because of me.
Yeah, and it took a while. That's
so long.
but it's that personal. Like it's that.
Yeah.
Like I ask God, how should I help in this situation right now?
Yeah.
And I'm not perfect at it, but I do it. I very, very intentionally listen. Yeah. Because I do want to be a positive influence. I don't want to just.
And we don't always know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what she needs, and she might not be in a position to tell me.
Right.
But God knows what she needs.
Yeah.
And so anyway, and taking care of Eileen. I mean, and her taking care of me. Like, we both have gotten so much better at loving each other just through a few things, and they all stem from the gospel. Like, you don't have to change them. God's working on that.
Well, you can't.
And
you can't, and you won't.
You have control over you, not them. You have control over you.
Be the change you want to see in the world.
Be the change, but also
in your relationship.
Know that in that moment that something is not going the way you want, see how you can contribute or how you are contributing to the problem, right? Like, see your own role first, not the other person's. And ultimately, you're already forgiven. They're already forgiven. You're both already forgiven. So you can just let it go and love each other. And you can, anyway, all these things took a long time to actually move from.
Well, I think you're always choosing what to focus on and what to care about and what your goal is. Like, I think if you're like, oh, okay, my goal is an amazing relationship with you, there's just a lot of stuff you're not going to do.
I mean, there's so much to that. There's having a great relationship is a vast thing. There's just so many layers to it. So
right, but like there are certain things that are clearly not going to help.
Oh yeah.
So you can just even think about whether or not to do those.
You can blow up a relationship real easy,
real fast. Destruction is easy.
Oh, very much like a house of cards or a one of those elaborate dominoes things where like it is so painstaking to build it and so easy to knock down.
Yeah, but I mean, with dominoes, it looks really cool when you're like, kind of that's the point.
Yeah, that is the point. So maybe that's not a good analogy, but I think I don't know. Thanks for listening and going on this journey with us.
Yeah.
And, we'll Eileen has some other series.
Well, and loving your spouse. First of all, I think you got to realize that your spouse is unlovable. And that you're unlovable. And like a human perspective, right? So like if I just looked at Mike and I was like, here's my tally marks, then, like we've messed up. And I think that loving someone isn't about having them do the right things all the time for you, or even in the case of early marriage, most of the time. It's about, what is it about, babe?
It's a choice. It's not a feeling. It's not a feeling. It's a choice. And the beautiful thing about drawing that value from God,
and seeing them as like not these are the things you've done and that's who you are, but seeing them as you are this amazing eternal soul that I get to interact with right now.
Who's on a journey?
You're on a journey where I'm on a journey. We're thankfully on this journey together right now. How can we support each other in that? And how can we forgive ourselves and each other and just enjoy the ride? Even if it's really rocky sometimes.
Yeah. And
then it's amazing. Because then you're like, hey, you're there.
Yeah.
So good to see you.
Look where we've made it to. It's amazing.
I feel like, I don't know. Like, I feel like every time I see you, I'm like so excited to see you.
Oh, genuinely. Like, I love picking you up from work. Like,
yeah,
I'm so excited to see you.
Yeah.
Like, there's no one in the world that I know even close to as well as I know you. And there's no one in the world that I care or want to know me. Like, and there's just no way of reproducing the thousands of hours that we've spent learning about each other and understanding each other. And I mean, I couldn't fathom my life without you. Like, and I don't want to, but
well, let's play chapter 2, babe.
Yeah, and we'll see you on the next.
Yeah.
Well, you'll see Eileen soon, and I'll see you in the next one that I come to. But yeah, just reading this last stanza, I can see that my heart hadn't fully let go, because I knew that making this record, I really hoped that this record would launch my career. I was making this record after the.
Is that what you wanted chapter 2 to be?
Not necessarily, but that's what I'm talking about at the end, where it's like, here I stand in front of you blowing this harp, which is funny because I don't actually end up playing harmonica on the song, but I did play harmonica on a lot.
Yeah.
Singing like I was born to do while I'm busy working on chapter 2. And I know for a fact that in 2007, I was still very much wanting to be a recording artist.
Absolutely.
And then in 2008...
Because you hadn't even gone to LA and played with Taylor guitars yet. Like, there's still a lot.
The Whistle Stop record
horizon.
came out in 2008, and we did a lot that year.
Yeah.
And I was very excited about that. And then when I finally made this record in 2011, I was still excited about it coming out and being a thing. And now that's over 12 years ago, 13 years ago. So it was a long,
14,
slow
pretty much.
process of letting go of that vision, that identity. And also just realizing that like what God had for me was amazing.
I can't
It
wait
was
till you
different.
play music again, babe.
Yeah, maybe I'll play
I'm
music
super
again.
thrilled about that.
Yeah, it will happen. I think
yeah.
it'll happen. But for now, here's the end of the Mike and Eileen Chapter 1 record. The song is Chapter 2.
Well, I cut my teeth in Baltimore. Fell out the womb and I hit the floor. They spanked me and they heard me cry. I'm not staying around here no more. So I rolled on down to Chattanooga, Tennessee in the frozen youth. But
All right, let's go find your